Today I'm going to be using my hover camera to record reading a book to you. I'm going to see if this will be easier for you to see the pictures and for me to read the words. Let's start with some book parts. The book we're going to read today is The Princess and the Pea. That's the title. When you see the title, usually the letters are big on the book, and that is the name of the story or the name of the book, the title. The front of the book is called the front cover. This book has a hard front cover. I can knock on it. When I turn it over, I have the back cover. The covers protect the pages inside. This is called the spine. The spine keeps the book together. You have a spine if you reach around and touch your back. We're focusing on a couple story elements. I'll move the book. Yesterday, we began by talking about setting. The setting is where and when a story takes place. In this picture, we see a beach, we see water, we see the sun. So we know by looking at the illustration that it's during the day because the sun is up, and it must be at a beach somewhere, whether it's a big lake or maybe an island. I'm not sure, but we know it's at the beach. This is a beachy setting. We also talked about characters. Characters are the people, animals, and creatures in a story. When we read Three Little Pigs, there weren't any people, there weren't any creatures, but there were animals, not bears, but we had pigs and the big bad wolf. So when we read The Princess and the Pea today, let's see if we can find the characters and the setting. The Princess and the Pea. That's the title. I wonder if that's the princess. Doesn't look like a princess. It looks like she's in jammies. The Princess and the Pea, illustrated by David Pace. I wonder what that is. It looks like a pillow. There once was a prince who wanted to marry a princess, but he wanted a real princess. He searched all over the world. He met lots of princesses, but not one of them was quite right. At last, the prince gave up and rode sadly back to his castle. One dark and stormy night, while the prince and his parents were eating dinner, they heard a knock on the door. The king went to see who was there. A girl stood outside, soaking wet and shivering with cold. Who are our characters so far? The prince. Where is the setting? The castle. I am a princess, the girl sniffed. I got lost. Come in and get dry by the fire, said the king. She doesn't look like a princess to me, whispered the prince. We'll soon find out, said the queen. I'll put a dried pea in her bed. Here's a new character, the king, and this girl who says she's a princess. Where are they at? What is the setting? They're in a castle. When the queen had put the pea in the girl's bed, she ordered 20 mattresses and 20 feather quilts to be piled on top. Please stay with us tonight, my dear, the queen told the girl, showing her to the bedroom. The girl climbed into bed. So here's the queen. She has a spoon and she's scooping up the pea and she's putting it on the bed. There are the 20 mattresses and the 20 feathered quilts. How did she get up in her bed? She had to use a ladder to climb up there. In the morning, the king and queen asked the girl if she had slept well. No, replied the girl. It felt as if there was a huge stone in my bed. I tossed and turned all night. Only a real princess could have felt that tiny pea, said the queen. So here's the princess, tossing and turning, tossing turning all night. The prince was delighted that at last he had found a real princess. At once he asked her to marry him. The prince and the princess had a wonderful wedding and lived happily ever after. As for the pea, it was put in a glass case in the Royal Museum. You can still see it there today. So in the middle, we have the prince and the princess. They got married. And over here, you can see the pea is put on a pillow, and it's on display in the museum. Where are they at now? What setting are they in? They're at a wedding. It could be at the castle. That would make sense. Let's talk about our characters. We said characters are people, animals, and creatures in the story. Were there any animals that were in the story that we talked about? No. Were there any creatures in the story that we talked about? No. Were there people that were in the story? Yes. The characters in Princess and the Pea were the princess, the prince, the king, and the queen. Where was the setting? Remember, setting is where and when a story takes place. Did this story take place at a beach? No. The story took place in a castle. That's where they were. And part of it was at night because she was sleeping. And part of it was in the day when they got married and when she woke up. So here's a picture of the castle, and you can see the clouds and the blue sky, so that means it's daytime. Now, when you read tonight your stories with your family, look for setting and look for characters in your story.